Imagine a place so secure, so isolated, that the walls themselves weigh more than your hope of escape. Welcome to the heart of America's most hardened prison, ADX Florence. The birth of the fortress. It was the early 1980s and the U.S. federal prison system was facing a chilling reality. 2 correctional officers were murdered within hours of each other at the USP Marion in Illinois. One guard stabbed as he escorted inmates, another killed in a separate incident only hours later. Wikipedia, the message was clear. Even maximum security prisons weren't sufficient to contain the worst of the worst. Some prisoners were simply beyond conventional control. In response, the Federal Bureau of Prisons, BOP, began work on a radical concept. A prison designed not just to house dangerous criminals, but to isolate them, to place each man in a cell of reinforced concrete, under 24-hour surveillance with minimal human contact. The idea: if someone has shown they're so dangerous that they murder guards, threaten lethal violence and can't be controlled, then treat them differently. Wikipedia. That prison became ADX Florence. Officially known as the United States Penitentiary Administrative Maximum Facility, USP Florence ADMAX, it opened its doors on January 10, 1995, in Fremont County, Colorado. Wikipedia. Nestled on the high plains a couple of hours south of Denver, the facility occupies some 49 acres within the larger federal correctional complex, Florence. 5,280 magazine. Architecturally and operationally, it was a new breed of prison. Every cell built almost entirely of poured, reinforced concrete. The windows purposely tiny, in some cases only 4 inches by 4 feet, so the inmate couldn't get any sense of where they were. The exercise yard was a concrete pit barely allowing 10 straight-line steps or 31 steps in a circle, designed so the prisoner couldn't map the terrain, couldn't orient himself for escape. Wikipedia. The doors? Over 1,400 steel remote-controlled portals. Motion detectors, cameras at every turn, pressure pads in the floors. Soundproofing built-in, designed to isolate even mentally from other men. One official called the place a clean version of hell. Wikipedia. Why was this extreme response needed? Because the danger had become extreme. Some inmates had killed guards in other facilities. Some were terrorists whose escape could threaten national security. Some were mob bosses or cartel kingpins with resources to reach outside. ADX's mission: to take out the element of risk by removing human contact, by reducing variables, by building containment into every inch of the prison's architecture. Upon arrival, new inmates often entered what was called Level 0, the first year or more of their time in near total isolation. 1 phone call per month, no visits, no television, minimal personal property, all to reflect that they were now among the most tightly controlled prisoners in America. Wikipedia. But the story of ADX Florence is not just about steel and concrete. It's about the human element, the correction officers who walk their rounds with rifles strapped, the prisoners whose days blur together in silence, the families waiting for a slim visit or phone call, the walls that don't just confine bodies but reshape minds. Inside the belly of the beast, step beyond the razor wire fences, past the motion sensors, and through the silent electronic doors of ADX Florence, and you enter a world that feels less like a prison and more like a high-security laboratory, one where the lab subjects are the most dangerous men the country has ever contained. Every hallway is a straight line. Every corner is engineered so an inmate can't hide. Even the air vents are designed to prevent communication between cells. ADX is divided into multiple units, each stacked with layers of restrictions that would crush the spirit of the average person. And yet, for many prisoners, this is just another day inside the fortress. The control unit, where time stops. The most infamous section is the control unit, a place so restrictive that even among ADX inmates, it has a dark reputation. This is where prisoners are locked down alone in their cells for about 23 hours a day. The cell doors are made of thick steel, with only a narrow slot used for food trays and restraints. Officers delivering meals do so with double locking mechanisms, ensuring no direct contact. Inside the cell, everything is concrete: the bed, the desk, the stool. The sink is stainless steel, bolted into the wall, designed to be impossible to dismantle. The toilet doesn't have a handle. Water flow is controlled from outside the cell. Even the shower inside each cell is on a timer, automatically shutting off to prevent misuse. Isolation is the primary tool here. A prisoner in the control unit might go days, sometimes weeks, without seeing another human face. Interaction is limited to a few words from an officer or a medical worker. 4 men who came from prisons where loud voices, clanging metal, and constant commotion defined their lives. The silence here is shocking, almost disorienting. The walls swallow sound. The ceilings deaden it. Some inmates claim you can hear your own heartbeat louder than anything else. The Special Housing Unit, SHU. Another major section is the SHU, the Special Housing Unit. Many federal prisons have a SHU, but ADX's version is in a category of its own. Prisoners who break rules or pose a threat anywhere else in the complex often end up here. Time in the SHU is typically temporary, but temporary at ADX can mean months, even years. Here, inmates get slightly more property and slightly more contact than the control unit, but the routines remain heavily restricted. Some prisoners will go so long without a normal conversation that when they finally speak, their voices crack from lack of use. Others begin talking to themselves, practicing conversations that may never happen. The step-down program. Not everyone stays in permanent lockdown. ADX operates a step-down program, a slow, deliberate process that can take years, designed to test if an inmate can eventually return to a lower security environment. It starts with granting the inmate more out-of-cell time, maybe an additional hour of recreation, maybe access to limited programming, or a chance to eat in a small group instead of alone. But these opportunities come with microscopic oversight. Officers observe everything: posture, tone of voice, reactions, body language. A single outburst, a single threat, a single poorly chosen word can send someone right back to the control unit. Many inmates describe the step-down program as a psychological minefield. Progress is possible, but the fear of messing up keeps them constantly on edge. Those who pass every stage may eventually be transferred out of ADX to a slightly less restrictive prison, but this process can take many years. For some men it never happens. Unit H, the home for terrorists. One of the most notorious wings is Unit H, often used to house inmates linked to terrorist activity, domestic and international. After September 11th, this unit became even more closely watched. Communication privileges are the tightest here. Letters often take weeks or months to process. Phone calls are scarce and heavily monitored, and visits are rare. The inmate cannot see hallways, doors, or prison layout. At Black Dolphin, knowledge is power. So inmates are kept blind to everything except their own feet. Inside the processing area, guards begin a routine that hasn't changed in decades. The strip down. Clothes are removed. Every item is examined. A full-body search follows. Mouth inspected. Ears, hair, fingernails. The inmate is spoken to only in commands. There is no sympathy, no conversation, no welcoming speech. The philosophy is simple. Make them understand submission from the first second. The rules: a system built to break the will. Black Dolphin enforces rules so strict that even hardened inmates are stunned. No lying down during daytime hours. Inmates cannot sit or lie on their beds until night. If a guard catches one sitting, even during illness, punishment follows. No talking without permission. Conversation between inmates is forbidden. Spoken words must be directed only to guards and only when requested. No objects that can be altered. Forks, metal spoons, or anything that can become a weapon is banned. Meals are eaten with a plastic spork, under supervision. No knowledge of the outside world. No newspapers, no television, no radio. Inmates are effectively erased. No movement without escort. Every transfer involves multiple armed guards and the bent posture. It's not just physical control, it's sensory control. Even the cells are designed to destroy routine memory and senses. Bright lights stay on 24 hours a day. Inmates sleep under light. Wake under light. Eat under light. There is no darkness, no privacy, no moment where they feel unobserved. Guards check every 15 minutes. If the inmate is lying down during the day, he's corrected. If he's not breathing rhythmically, guards knock on the bars to ensure he's conscious. In many ways, Black Dolphin is not a prison. It is a full-time behavioral experiment. One former officer described it simply: we don't correct them. We contain them. The cell, 24 hours of control. Each cell is small, roughly 9 square meters, and contains a steel bunk bolted to the floor, a table welded to the wall, a sink and toilet in full view of guards, thick bars behind a heavy steel door, surveillance cameras, a sealed window that provides no view outside. There are 2 doors per cell. A barred gate, then a solid steel door, creating a layered barrier. If an inmate wants food, he receives it through a hatch. If he wants medical attention, guards escort him bent forward to the clinic. If he wants fresh air, he is taken to a cage outside, still bent, still shackled. What's unique is that inmates receive no physical contact except restraints. No handshakes. No friendly gestures. No pats on the shoulder. Human touch, like everything else, is controlled. The psychological strategy: break the confidence. Black Dolphin operates on a philosophy different from any Western prison. Remove identity. Remove autonomy. Remove routine. Remove hope. And in doing so, prevent rebellion before it can form. The Russian government publicly states that these inmates, many convicted of 3, 10, or even 50 murders, must be contained at all times. Rehabilitation is not the objective here. An officer once explained, "You cannot rehabilitate a man who has murdered a child, then return to murder again. You neutralize him." Black Dolphin is the neutralization chamber. And everything, from the bent posture to the constant light, achieves one goal: domination of the human mind. Inside the daily hell, life, routine, and the crushing silence of Black Dolphin for 500+ characters. Life inside Black Dolphin is not measured in days, weeks, or months. It is measured in cycles. Identical, unbroken, merciless cycles that continue until death. For inmates serving life sentences under Russia's most extreme prison regime, time is not something they pass. It is something that consumes them. Black Dolphin's daily routine is not meant to punish. It is meant to eliminate unpredictability. Because unpredictability leads to planning, and planning leads to danger. And in the most feared prison in Russia, danger is unacceptable. The morning, light before light. There is no wake-up bell in Black Dolphin Prison. Lights are on 24 hours a day, even at night, burning into inmates' eyes through thin eyelids. Darkness does not exist here. It is forbidden. Shadows only belong to guards. Around 6 a.m., guards begin their first full inspection. Each officer walks through the corridors with military precision. Cells open one by one. And when they do, the command echoes, "Najabateswaye." Bend forward. Every inmate must immediately assume the position, at a 90-degree angle, hands behind the back, wrists locked upward. The prisoner does not question it. He does not hesitate. He does not speak. The guards enter the cell. They inspect the walls, the bunk, the drain, the bars, the toilet, the light fixtures, the floor, and the prisoner himself. Every day, every cell, every corner. Nothing escapes inspection because at Black Dolphin, any small object can become a weapon, even folded paper or a toothbrush. While bent, the inmate is searched, examined, and sometimes questioned. Questions are short. Answers must be shorter. After inspection, breakfast arrives. If you can call it breakfast. The food, survival, not satisfaction. Meals at Black Dolphin are designed to sustain life. Nothing more. Typical breakfast: weak tea, porridge, stale bread. Lunch: cabbage soup, sometimes a potato, occasionally a bit of protein. Dinner: nearly identical to lunch with slight variation. There is no salt, no seasoning, no sugar, no comfort. Inmates eat quickly under surveillance. Utensils are plastic, flexible, incapable of cutting or stabbing. Bowls are metal, heavy enough to survive decades of use but too rounded to be sharpened. After meals, prisoners must stand again. No lying down. No resting. No sitting on the bed. Not until night. Beds at Black Dolphin remain locked in the upright position during the day. Yes, literally locked. The metal frame folds upward, leaving no surface for sitting or reclining. If an inmate sits, he violates the rules. If he violates the rules, punishment follows. The work, labor is control. Like most Russian penal colonies, Black Dolphin incorporates labor. But unlike other prisons, the work here is not rewarding. It is designed to exhaust, occupy, and eliminate idle time. Inmates may do stitching, simple craft assembly, textile work, cleaning tasks, repetitive low-risk labor. Every job is supervised. Movement is controlled. Conversation is non-existent. The purpose is not productivity. Russia does not rely on Black Dolphin's output. The purpose is to keep the mind from wandering, because a wandering mind is dangerous. The exercise: Freedom, Indiana, a cage. In Western prisons, exercise yards have open skies, dirt fields, or even basketball hoops. At Black Dolphin, exercise is done in a small outdoor cage surrounded by bars, mesh wire, concrete walls, and guards watching from above. Prisoners are escorted bent forward to these cages, still handcuffed, still surrounded by guards. Once inside, the cuffs come off, but the freedom is still an illusion. The exercise period lasts 90 minutes per day. The inmate may walk in circles, do push-ups, or simply stare at the sky, the only sky he sees without bars. Some inmates cry during exercise. Others pray. Most simply breathe deeply, trying to remember what real air felt like before their past swallowed their future. When the session ends, cuffs go back on. The bent walk resumes. And the prisoner returns to his cell. The isolation, a mind begins to unravel. Psychologists call it sensory suffocation. Guards call it routine. Inmates call it something else entirely. The slow death. There is no TV, no radio, no news, no human touch, no conversations, no shared activities, no books beyond approved materials, no concept of time, no way to mark the passing of days. The silence is not accidental. It is a weapon. Prisoners at Black Dolphin have reported hallucinations, auditory illusions, time distortions, emotional numbness, and vivid nightmares while awake. Some talk to the walls. Some count cracks in the concrete. Some stare at the ceiling for hours. A former inmate once said, "You don't go insane at Black Dolphin. You slowly forget what sanity was." The night, a brief mercy. Around 10 p.m., guards unlock the beds. Only now are inmates allowed to lie down. Only now can they rest their bodies. The lights remain bright. Sleep is shallow, interrupted, often impossible. Every 15 minutes, a guard walks through the corridor, checking breathing, checking movement, checking survival. It is the closest thing to mercy Black Dolphin offers. Sleep under surveillance, under light, under command. And when morning comes, the cycle begins again. The prison with no second chance. Black Dolphin is not a place for hope. It is not a place for rehabilitation, second chances, or redemption arcs. It is a place built to contain the men Russia has given up on, men whose crimes scarred families, communities, even the nation itself. Some killed dozens. Some ate their victims. Some destroyed lives with bombs. Some showed pure, calculated evil. To the Russian government, these men are too dangerous to walk freely, ever again. So Black Dolphin becomes the final chapter of their lives. A place where days repeat. Where silence suffocates. Where light never turns off. Where every breath is monitored. Where the mind slowly bends under the weight of routine. For most inmates, Black Dolphin is not just a prison. It is the end of the world. And the world will never hear from them again.